Hello, friends and colleagues. Welcome back to the Think Catalyst podcast. My name is Ricardo Ferraris, and I'm here with my business partner, Vivek Kuchibotla. And we have an interesting topic today. Vivek, how you doing? How's Chicago? How's the weather going in Chicago?
I'm good, and the weather is rainy, and I think it's going to be raining for the next 3 days. So it's going to be damp and miserable. But
Crummy,
otherwise, everything's good.
crummy weekend maybe coming up. Okay.
Football watching weekend.
Good to see you, and good to see you all. And thank you for joining us today. We have a terrific topic that we'll be discussing today, and I think it's going to be the first of a series of a number of tips and thoughts that advertisers and agencies should think about as it relates to doing better work. And a lot of it has to come with experience that Vivek and I have had in the past. And a lot of it also has to do with the fact that, at least what I see, and I don't know what you think and see, Vivek, but I'm not seeing really that great work right now. I'm seeing a lot of very average work. And as they say in Mexico, promedio, very average. Lack of ideas, just all focused maybe on some hard sell, but nothing really great. So the next the next series of podcasts that we're going to be producing are really related to how to work together with your agency on hopefully improving that and doing something, doing much better work. So Vivek, you want to introduce us to this first thought and first idea?
Yeah, we're calling this series Common Mistakes When Working with the Agency. And the first common mistake is not having a clear, shared, creative vision. The best way to describe this is to use an analogy, and people who know me are probably sick of my analogies by now, but here goes another one. Just imagine you're a musical band. You're a band of musicians that's come together to make music. You're all strong-willed, you're all talented, you all play a particular instrument. If the brief for this group of musicians were to be, well, go and play great music, you'd have a recipe for chaos, because each one of the musicians would interpret it in a different way. Some would take the brief to be, well, let's do great classical music, or let's do great jazz music, or let's do great country music. And you'll spend a lot of time having arguments between the band members to come to some sort of agreement as to what the common vision is, right? Only when you have a common vision, only when you decide that you want to live in the jazz genre, will people come together and work to making coherent music. So this applies to marketing and advertising. I mean, you're bringing talented people together. Each one has a particular specialty, and each one will see the world through the lens of their specialty. Good example of this is the creative will want the work to be creative and to be recognized, and the marketer will want the work to deliver results. That's maybe the oldest controversy in the advertising industry, but it reflects a lack of a shared vision. They'll argue and argue and argue, and it'll just take up time and resources and frustrate everyone. So you need to give them a goal. You need to include their individual perspectives, and you need to come out with something where everyone can focus their talents on producing a superior end product. So that's kind of what that's an analogy for what a creative vision is. Now let's try to define it. You want to give us a shorter, easier to understand definition of what it is, Ricardo?
Yeah, I will say this right now, what it is, but just to add to what you were saying right now, Vivek, particularly as we see that briefs are poorer and poorer all the time. And when perhaps it's, an introduction of a variant or a new product in the series of, products and the brand, etc. Unfortunately, briefs are poorer and poorer, and we're not spending the right time to develop them properly. That said, when you have a strong creative vision, a defined creative vision, it helps the brief significantly because it already sets up where you want to go in that general direction. So we'll talk a little bit about it, and then we'll also talk about some examples, because examples are the best way to dimensionalize the real benefit, the real power behind having, a strong creative vision. So I'll define it, and we'll talk a little bit about it. But it is something that an agency and their client advertiser need to sit down and work at. And it's not just done in one meeting, and it's not just done in one discussion. It'll probably take a little bit of time to develop to do this. But what it is, in the most simplest sense, is a short and a simple statement that lays out what we want the work to look like, what the vision is, what are the creative goalposts, right? This is done together. The agency doesn't have the answer, nor does the advertiser, but together in a partnership, they can write it down, they can develop it jointly, they can work on it, and they have to sign it off, because this is going to be something that they will use going forward to develop better briefs, but also to evaluate the work and to set the course of where the brand is going to go for a certain period of time. Vivek?
This is a blood oath. This is an agreement that both parts are coming to, and implicit in that is the commitment that the agency will present no work that is not within the constraints of the shared vision, and the advertiser will approve no work which is outside the constraints. So that immediately gives you some focus, and it makes the process more efficient. You waste less time. One important watch out with the creative vision, and again, this is another pet peeve of mine. I hate statements that sound really smart, but I don't really understand what they mean, because there's a lot of big buzzwords and marketing words. So you want to make sure that the vision is written in simple words, in words that someone who doesn't work in marketing, someone who doesn't work in advertising can understand. I always like to say, write it so that my grandmother could understand it. Just make it as simple as possible. So let's throw out some examples of a creative vision, and I'd like to start with one which is known by everybody, literally, who works in advertising, and I'm talking about the creative vision for Marlboro. And most people, when
An agency where you worked at, by the way.
An agency where I
that
worked,
has
yes.
developed...
Although I did, I'm old, but I'm not that old. I didn't work on Marlboro, but I was proud to work at the agency that created the Marlboro Man.
Iconic campaigns, very iconic campaigns. That one in particular.
I was just reading somewhere that the sales of Marlboro went from, I think it was 1,400,000 cigarettes.
Sticks.
I'm sticks. Exactly. I'm sorry. I'm not a cigarette guy.
I worked,
sticks.
I work for the
Uh,
competition. I was an account director on a competitive brand, and we Sticks was the descriptor of the volume.
so it went from
Mm.
1,400,000 to 14 million sticks in the space of 12 months. I
Yeah,
mean, it's just through the roof
yeah.
completely. Anyhow, when people think about Marlboro, we think about Marlboro, the Marlboro Man, the cowboy, and we think about Marlboro Country.
Mhm.
And those are actually executions, but the creative vision was to position Marlboro as masculine, rugged, and independent. And it was executed with the cowboy and Marlboro Country. Masculine, rugged, independent. And that allowed Marlboro to move away from Marlboro Country to go into the Marlboro Adventure team, which started talking about Formula One, that sort of stuff, while staying true to the creative vision. So my point here is the creative vision. If you have an advertising idea that's hugely powerful, that can be your creative vision. But also, most people are not lucky enough to have that huge idea. You need words to capture the direction that may be different from the actual campaign that you have on air.
Mhm.
So that's my example. You want to give us one?
Sure. I was also going to say, and because we'll find this in a couple of examples that we'll talk about, but you'll you'll also see campaign taglines that are developed for brands that ultimately actually become the vision, or are really summarize that vision, and then the brief is to do a number of executions against that vision, right? Um, but certainly there's a number of really interesting uh, brands that have done that. A brand that I've worked on and you have worked on as well, Vivek, is McDonald's. Um, uh, by the way, this is food that hasn't really changed in the last 30 years. It's pretty much the same stuff. The Big Mac's been around, the Quarter Pounder's been around. There's some new items on the menu every once in a while, but the heart of it is still that. You know, it's the Happy Meal, it's the occasion to go out. And this was used as a tagline in the past. I'm not sure it's been used. It's been used now, but and it's one that you have used in presenting a number of examples of great campaigns, and that's food, folks, and fun. And I think it was used as a campaign line for a while, but beyond that, I think it's really emblematic of where McDonald's creative goes. It is about family, it is about fun, it is about food that everyone knows. And there's some things that are there's some items on the menu that we all love, like the French fries and the nuggets and stuff like that, and you'll never taste a burger like a Big Mac anywhere else. But it is representative of the creative vision of McDonald's. I worked on it recently. You were the global account director on the business.
I was
What were your thoughts on that? And McDonald's is hugely successful. They are
everywhere.
hugely successful. They are probably the most successful fast food chain in the world.
Yep. It reminds me of the old Johnny Walker selling line, born 1870 and still going strong.
Mhm,
McDonald's was born, what, 1950 something,
mhm.
still going strong. Just one comment on the creative vision, the word folks. Um, Chosen carefully. Folks brings up images of just regular people, right? It's not people, it's folks. It's regular people. And that gives it power as well, because it's not snobbish, it's not elitist, it's just for regular people.
Mhm.
Um, a couple of additional creative visions that kind of fall in the same bucket when I'm going to reference. Sometimes companies have philosophies that are so powerful that they drive everything in the company, from product development to advertising to just their general posture.
Yeah.
And here are two examples. The first one is Mercedes, the best or nothing. This is something that Gottlieb Daimler said 120 years ago. That became the philosophy of the company. It's all about, if it's not the best, it's not worth doing.
Right.
And that has to be reflected in the advertising as well. So that's a company philosophy that becomes a creative vision. Another one that's similar in that it's the company philosophy is Patagonia, which talks about saving, and they talk about saving our home planet, not just saving the planet, our home planet. So everything that they do, even the advertising, is always about showcasing the environmental aspects of Patagonia. There's a very famous ad. It's called "Don't Buy This Jacket," and it's actually selling a jacket by telling people, don't buy a lot of jackets, buy this one. This will last longer, therefore it's better for the environment. Interesting twist, but very consistent with their philosophy of saving our home planet. So there are two examples. Do you have any more?
So there's a number of them. In the realm of the car business, you mentioned Mercedes-Benz. BMW, I think, has a very clear, defined creative vision for a long time. And I think that they're still using the same tagline around that for at least 30, 40 years. I remember when I was in high school, Mercedes, the BMW was, my ultimate aspiration. And theirs is all about the performance of the machine, the performance of the car, and the tagline, "The ultimate driving machine," is still around. And if you see their ads, there is freshness, there's new executions, but there's consistency in terms of the performance of the car. And now we're seeing it evolve with their electric models as well, and all of their new products. So another German brand, by the way, very focused, very disciplined, very rigorous in its approach. You won't see advertising and executions that will go far away from that creative vision as well. The other one that I really like a lot, Vivek, is American Express. When I graduated from high school and went into college, I started getting a lot of credit card offers. And I remember that Amex was not the one that I was getting. Amex I got when I graduated from college, but it was the one that I aspired to. And for some reason, I always thought actually that Amex was the biggest credit card issuer in the world, and it is not. It's much less than Visa, MasterCard, and many other offers that are out there. But their creative vision made it all about being part of something that not everyone was about, or not everyone could be part of, and not in a disrespectful way. It was actually done, I think, very well, and it just showed that there was it was a different level of a membership, right? I think truth be told, I think that they've lost a little bit of that vision. But that vision was very strong for many, many years. It's still a very aspirational card to have. I'm not sure it has the same power. And that's not just because of Amex. I think that there's other offers out there right now, and there's a lot of ways that, fintech has taken over a lot of our abilities to use credit. But I think American Express is always one of those examples to say, okay, to look up to.
It's interesting. As I was listening to you, I was thinking that you're making a wonderful argument as to the long-term effects of advertising, because you saw your first ultimate driving machine ad many years before you could afford one. And you probably saw your first membership has its privilege ad many years before you actually qualified for an Amex card. So yeah, advertising is works in the long term. So that's an interesting.
But those two brands are badges.
I know.
They're badges,
I
and
know.
they're an introductory card, and
But just as a commentary
yeah.
to the clients who say, okay, I advertise today, I need sales tomorrow. Well, here are two examples where you advertise today and your sales might come 5 years or even more down the road. But they will come eventually. So
one more example, right? We have one more example. I think you should talk about it. It's a competitor of McDonald's.
It's a competitor of McDonald's.
Go back
Yes,
into the QSR realm, but tell us a little bit about this other example that you wanted to bring up.
Well, this applies to Burger King during one particular era when they had a CMO who was very invested in doing great creative work. It was Fernando Machado. I think he was there probably maybe 5, 7, 8 years. And it was very clear that the brief was do advertising that gets recognized and wins awards. And that's a valid creative vision as well. I mean, advertising wise, Burger King punched way above its weight for those years he was there. And it was because they did advertising that was constantly recognized. Mm-hmm. And the word of mouth and the talk value that advertising generated had value to them. So the point here is, if you want your advertising to win awards, say it.
Yeah.
Lay it out as your creative vision, and it's a valid creative vision as well, just as long as both the agency and the marketer are in agreement. So let's talk about the benefits then. So we've talked about what a creative vision is. We've talked about we've given some examples of what powerful creative visions are in the market. So why don't you tell us what the benefits are, and then we can wrap this up, and we won't have people telling us, damn, your podcasts are good, but they go too long.
So I think that the very first one is all about consistency and continuity in what we always call brand building. Unfortunately, that concept has also been damaged by continuous agency changes and pitches and so forth. We'll talk about that later. There have been agency changes and pitches where the advertising idea has continued, but it's far and few in between. But if we want to build brands, strong brands over time, and the brands that we talked about have a lot of mileage, have a lot of years behind them. Okay. But consistency and continuity in building in that creative vision is certainly one of the most important benefits. And there's a slew of brands that have you know, we talked some examples, but there's many, many more brands. We're seeing less of that. And that's this is why it's one of the things that we bring up in conversations with clients and agencies. So that is one of the things that we think is one of the benefits. Vivek?
Just to be fair, not advertising is obviously a long-term proposition. Brand building is a long-term proposition, but not only do advertising agencies change, but marketers come and go as well.
Yeah.
And it's very typical that in let's say a 5-year period of time, everyone at the agency and everyone at the marketing department has moved on to something else, and it's a bunch of new people working on the business. So you need the vision to keep the focus in one direction. Another benefit, it gives the agency a clearly defined target. So a lot of the internal discussion is eliminated, and now you're focusing on how to execute the vision in the best possible way.
Mm.
You're no longer discussing what the vision should be. That you've agreed on.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes the process much more efficient, and the work will be better because the area of focus is how do we make this the best possible execution of the creative vision.
Mm-hmm. I think
so
it
that would be
also
number
makes
two.
I think it also makes it's a benefit when you're, as I stated earlier at the beginning, when your brief isn't really the best. At least having a creative vision gives the agency still a very defined direction as to where to take the advertising. And one other thing I would say, it also allows the agency to be much more innovative and not necessarily wait for a brief to come around, but they may see a business building idea and concept that they will take to the client within the scope of the vision. That may be, that may be very useful to build a business and develop another campaign. So
because they know where they're going.
Because they know where they're
Absolutely.
going, right?
Because they know where they're going.
going.
And the last benefit is that it makes life easier for the advertiser to provide feedback on the work and to approve the work, because they actually have a statement that they can compare the work that's presented by the advertising agency to. So it just makes approvals so much faster, so much easier. So those are the three benefits that we get from this.
All right. So agencies and clients sit down, discuss, work on a creative vision. It will help you manage all your processes better, but ultimately it will do the thing that is most important, and that is it will deliver much better work. It will deliver work that will impact the business. It will deliver work that will be recognized and that will be sustainable and last longer. And that's how brands are built. If you look at the most successful brands in each of the categories, in different categories, whether it's soft drinks or alcohol or beer or cars or technology, the leading brands most of the time have a very clear, defined vision. We haven't even talked about Apple. We haven't even talked about Coca-Cola or some of the other brands, but they're all brands that have a very clear and defined vision. So we've just given a few examples just to illustrate and allow us to sort of understand a little bit more what it takes. So that's our conclusion. Any other closing thoughts, Vivek, that you on your end?
Sit down with your agency and craft the vision. Mm-hmm. And if you guys can't do it, or if you need help, we're available. We'll help you to do it.
Hey, that's great. That's what we have done for I think between you and me, there's like 70 years of experience there. Well, we don't want to say that the
We
ages.
don't want to talk about that. No,
Taboo. Thanks for joining us today. Hope it was useful. We'll have more tips in the next couple of podcasts as it relates to how to work better with your agency, avoiding common mistakes, and going back to some of the fundamentals and the basics that will help you do and create better work. So thanks for joining us. Like us, share us, subscribe. Hear us on Spotify as well, because we're on Spotify. Thank you for joining us today. Have a great week.